if China gets it first, like we have loss of control issues, all that shit. Yep, that happens for sure, or like is the same risk. But then there's the risk that they actually manage to control it, and we live under like friggin' Winnie the Pooh, CCP, whatever the fuck, right? And so that has to be dealt with. And one you alluded to, like, well, why aren't we interfering with this stuff? I think that's a very interesting question, and we definitely have to step up collection activities. Like RIC, this is like should be priority one, or one of the top priorities is getting an like X-ray vision into where are the big Chinese data centers, what is their actual chip status, like how many chips do they have and where, and who are the researchers who are running this stuff, and like let's make sure that we have the capability to like Stuxnet this shit if we decide that we're getting too close.
Are they using Nvidia chips?
They're using they're using some Nvidia chips.
How are they getting Nvidia chips?
So there's some that are still allowed to be exported to China.
Why? Because obviously. Because don't ask me why, because obviously. Does anybody have questions? Because there are no questions here.
Did you pronounce the shit out of the B? No. Was it? Yeah, obviously.
Obviously.
I dig that.
Where's my mic? Let me speak to that. That's why. Like seriously.
Yeah. So first of all, yes. Second of all,
China cannot get a hold of this technology, and they can't be the first to get super intelligent.
Yeah. So what we're seeing right now, when you look at the chip situation in China, you're actually seeing the consequence of controls that were put in like 1 and 2 and 3 years ago. Because the supply chain takes so long to flow through, right? So
each year they basically tightened and tightened and tightened. And so what's happening now is like, so DeepSeek, for example, seems to have like a few like layers of generations of chips where they could get their hands maybe on a few H100s when those were not, controlled. Then they can get their hands on a few H800s, which is the chip that Nvidia took and like slightly tweaked a little bit to make it pass the export controls and then shipped. And then they've got some H20s, which is the next chip that they tweaked a little bit more to pass the next level of export controls.
It's actually
so silly.
It's also so much worse than that because we were talking about this earlier, but the actual dynamics of this is like Nvidia finds out the export controls are going to come in 2 months, right? They're going to hit then. And so you're Nvidia, you're like, I'm sitting on these like super high-end chips. In 2 months, I'm not going to be able to sell them to China. Okay, cool. I'll still be able to sell them to Microsoft and all these American companies. Yeah. So how about this? I'm going to try to ship the fuck out of these to China, prioritizing Chinese companies over American companies.
I would put you in jail. Who's the CEO of Nvidia again?
Jensen Huang.
What's his name?
Jensen Huang. He's Taiwanese though. But all right. Here it is.
Taiwanese. I have some good friends who are Taiwanese. I respect Chinese people and I respect the Taiwanese people. Now, I have a problem with that. I have a problemo. Okay. Because I'm calling into question Mr. Huang's loyalty. Because if I'm Donald J. Trump, and Trump will do this, if the Don gets a hold of this information and he's alerted to it because he's not got a big attention span, but you put this shit in front of him, I guarantee he's going to be like, bring him over here. Well, like seriously, what the fuck?
Excuse me. The issue, I love Bryan. Bryan's a great guy, but he gets something's wrong sometimes, but that's okay. So he.
That's very good.
Thank you.
You're not allowed to be a PhD in physics and be better at impressions than I am. I'm the comedian here. Have him removed, please. Okay, keep going. No, wait, you can stay, but then we'll kill you afterwards. I have a button I push. All right,
We're going to do that anyway.
This is like a little trapdoor. Cool.
Yeah, can you do it after I'm done
go
with the
right out the ceiling? Remove him. But it's a really obvious button. I have a giant button here that you just saw just now. Remove him. All right, go on.
Can we do that after the
goat
scene that we were going to
after the goat? Yeah.
So there is a counter argument, and the reason why this hasn't been done. This is what Nvidia is going to tell and does tell the White House, right? Yeah. So if you prevent us from accessing the Chinese market, like Huawei, which like does kick-ass chip design, they're going to just replace us in the market. It's going to create more sort of economic imperative for the Chinese market to sort itself out, and then we'll lose our entire ability to kind of penetrate that market.
I'm sure it's a nuanced thing, and I'm sure Mr. Huang knows a lot more about this than I do. And when you're Taiwanese, you're not necessarily loyal to the Chinese mainland, unless you are.
Wow, we're getting sued today. Yeah. So, well,
I respect the man.
The argument is actually not great because so one of the fundamental issues there is like the top line GPU. Like Nvidia has so many advantages over Huawei right now. And that may change with DeepSeek, by the way. Their cracked engineering team is now like there's signs that like China's starting to centralize and kind of coalesce a lot of these players.
Between like who is training the models, like the DeepSeek folks, and who is designing the chips, Huawei, and who is building the chips, which is SMIC, which was founded by a bunch of engineers who left from Taiwan's main foundry and went on to...
Yeah, there's a fascinating history of like lawsuits and industrial espionage there, but it's like how China has kickstarted this whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because,
Can't blame them.
Yeah.
So the risk is that they become good enough to build their own chips natively and supplant Nvidia in that market and eventually, reach parity. But the thing is, they are very challenged to do that. They're actually lacking a lot of the advanced tools that you require to build those chips because of other export controls. And so in reality, like they've got to climb a pretty steep learning curve. It's going to take several years. And so you kind of think about like, well, the timeline to superintelligence versus the timeline to them doing that, and which is faster. And it's looking like
we're ahead of the game.